We've been talking about using photography as reference material for making art. We've talked about how it's not a replacement for drawing from life. It's very important to continue the practice of drawing from life, landscape, or the figure in real life, because not only do we see more depth and nuance and enter into the moment, so to speak, but drawing from life also develops our visual and observation skills. But the camera is a wonderful tool. It's been used as reference by many of the great artists, from Vermeer in the 17th century, who used the camera obscura before cameras as we know them existed, to Norman Rockwell and many contemporary artists today. As I mentioned before, I prefer to take my own photographs as studies for a subject to draw or paint, and I take many from all different angles and lighting settings if I can, but once in a while there's a photograph that was either taken a long time ago or one that a friend or family member asks me to use to create a painting. So I'll talk about what the challenges are to that process. In our classes, I've often provided photographs of subject matter that I've taken myself or manipulated from an existing photograph. What I do with those is handcraft them, so to speak. I do the still life arrangement to control the quality of the composition and or remove extraneous or confusing imagery that would create unnecessary stumbling blocks to learning to draw. So now the students will do that work themselves. With an existing photograph, we have to mentally think through what would work for a drawing and what won't work. What is extra, too much detail, too confusing, doesn't add to the composition or the viewer's experience of the finished work. We do this by making small sketches or even larger ones, because it's only when we really put pencil to paper that we realize the gap between, oh, that would make a cool drawing, and oh, that really doesn't work. We also might have to do some research on what an object really looks like, or ask to observe the person in the picture if possible, or ask a friend to pose their hand, for instance, in the same way as the person in the picture is posed, or set a vase or a bouquet of flowers up and do some practice sketches on that. And that's what I did with this project I'm going to talk about on the table. Norman Rockwell was the one who gave me permission, so to speak, to do whatever I needed to get my painting to develop the way I was seeing it in my mind's eye. Up to that point, I thought if it wasn't coming together, I just wasn't a good artist. But his book, which is a wonderful reference, showed me his process. This is the book. And now these were photographs that he set up, but here he's done a bunch of sketches for his end product here. And again, he took his photo here, but he needed even more information. I mean, he couldn't really take a picture of this person suspended in water, so he set up a variety of other images for himself to get the information that he needed. So he really gave me the courage to just continue on until I got what I needed. So I have a painting here that our son asked us to paint of one of his wedding cakes in his pastry business in Colorado. And of course I didn't have the option of really seeing the cake in real life because it was consumed by the time he sent me the photo. And this shows in the photograph a sort of standard way he sets up a wedding cake table. He's got the wedding cake, It's on a slab of marble. He'll have maybe some wine or champagne, some candles, some flowers. And so that was the starting point. And of course, he had asked me to do this of his work, so I wanted to stay true to this image. So the first thing I did was a sketch in vine charcoal. And in doing that and looking at it, I realized I put the reference aside and just said, okay, how does this stand up as a piece of art? And I realized there was just a lot going on. The subject matter was really the cake. And it just seemed like the glasses here, all these candles, the flowers were just more detailed information than was needed for a powerful painting. So one of the first things I did, and I'm missing my photograph here, oh well, was I wasn't crazy about the flowers. I didn't really think they added much. I liked the vase. So I got myself a bouquet, and this is the finished product, but I created a bouquet for myself of these flowers and decided I liked that much better. And so I did another sketch, which I didn't keep, but I did another sketch, and I was having a great deal of difficulty with these ellipses, and the cake kept looking like it was falling over. So I created a cardboard cake that simulated the actual cake in the photograph, so that I had a real life still life to work from. And the other thing I decided, well, I experimented with the number of candles. I decided 4 was just too many, too equal, too something, and I tailored it down to 3, and I experimented with other kinds of flowers and finally abandoned that. But the final product I settled on was 1 candle, and of course I was in dialogue with the master chef here, and he was fine with this, and I said my rationale is not only a visual decluttering, but also marriage is about 2 people becoming one. And so I felt the symbolism of 1 candle and also the added visual benefit of that worked. And then I posed the glasses, if you see in this reference image, the glasses are in full view, and I decided it would be more interesting if, because they were not the center of the idea here, the cake was really what was being highlighted, to have them sort of disappearing off the image would add interest and make the viewer feel like they were entering into the picture here. So this is what I settled on, and then of course I drastically manipulated the background, the coloring, and so forth, which is usually unless the background is the subject, which of course it was not in this case. The background is usually something that can be constructed by the artist. So that's how I worked through a single photo that I had as reference, turning it into a piece of art.